Hi, and welcome to the first edition of Agile Encounters. Today, we're going to be exploring the subject of whether or not you can be a manager without knowing Agile. But before we get into that topic, I just wanted to first introduce you to Paweł.
Hello, Paweł Feliński over here. Welcome to our webinar. Last couple of years, I spent in Meyrick Consultancy as an Agile coach, and I was working here with Tony. We had a lot of good discussions, great collaboration with many customers, and today we are sharing part of our point of view with you. Tony, who are you?
Yeah, so my name's Tony Richards. I work with Merrick as well. I'm very much on the client side. I do a little bit of training, but largely I'm spending a lot of time working with managers in organizations, most on the large side, but sometimes smaller. And I also, like Paweł, have a background in Agile and Lean practices. And on that note, we're really going to get into the subject now. So, Paweł, just to open it up, can you be a manager without knowing Agile?
It's a very tricky question, actually. Very often, literally, my last two classes that I delivered, we talk about how to be an Agile leader. What's an Agile manager? But we never ask a question, or we rarely ask a question. Can you be a manager, just a regular, random manager, without having an idea what Agile is, without hearing what Agile is? And I think this is an important topic. As well. My first idea, what I would like to share with you is what I started with: leader or manager. Very often, I hear many people using these two labels literally as labels. I'm a leader or a manager, no matter. No, it doesn't matter really. I think there is a difference between managers and leaders. And our question is: can you be a manager? Just a manager, without hearing of Agile. Tony, what do you think? Is there any strict difference between these two labels, as I say?
I don't know if there is a strict difference, but I've done a bit of research in the background to the nature and the history of the words, and it's interesting. If you look at the background of the word manager, it comes from the equestrian world, the management of horses and training horses to perform and behave in a particular way, whereas leadership comes from a military background, so more around how do you lead people into some kind of conflict or challenge. So to my mind, if you take those two roots of the words, there is a subtle difference in there in the way that they're both implying. One is around managing something to behave or operate in a certain way, whereas the other is a little bit more open in it's setting an objective, it's setting a goal, and it's leading people towards that goal. So in my mind, there is a subtle difference, but I often see the two overlapped, as you say. What's your experience been?
Well, in theory, I see there is a difference, definitely, but my practice, especially with the customers, big customers, big corporations, really, is that people think management leadership's literally the same. They used to be managers during Agile transformation, they become leaders, but actually nothing changes really. I have a similar point of view to yours. For me to manage, first of all, is to have a formal authority. People listen to you because they have to listen to you. If you're a leader, that means they want to listen to you. As simple as that. They will follow you. Perhaps it comes from military. We are following leaders for a big battle or a war, but I'm not going to that direction. Interestingly, I believe you can be a manager and a leader. I think good managers are great leaders as well, but I wouldn't put it in any sign of equality over here. It's not that because you are a manager, you're a leader. It's simply if you're a good manager, people will listen to you. You will have charisma, and you don't need formal authority anymore to lead them. So our question, coming back to the topic, is: can you be a manager, not necessarily a leader, without hearing of Agile at all? What do you think, Tony?
So for me, when I think of that question, it's all about the intention that you hold. So if, as a manager, your intention is to make everything as efficient as possible, to operate within the most efficient means. That's not to say an unnecessary thing. It's a very important thing. However, if as a manager your intention is to take the perspective of the person who's going to receive your service or product, like a customer, or to take the perspective of a person or an employee in your team, then I believe that's a different kind of manager. What I mean by that, just to break it out, is a manager who's focused on purely on efficiency often can fall into, and I've seen this with clients, the pitfall of optimizing a part of the whole question, and they sub-optimize the whole company. So by making their particular area efficient and managing it really tightly and controlling, inadvertently and unknown to them, they're slowing everyone else down. Whereas if you take an outside-in approach, so you start to take the perspective of the customer or of someone in your team, and you're managing for efficiency from their perspective, suddenly things happen. Either what you're producing or the service you're providing internally is well received and you get feedback to confirm that, or maybe the team members start to see improvements, but they see them in the eyes of a customer because you're role modeling this kind of behavior. So for me, in a short answer, because that was quite a long explanation, if you're in the former camp, you're just driving for efficiency, I think it would be quite hard to operate in an agile organizational team. Not impossible, but it would take some work. If you're in the latter camp and you're taking that outside-in perspective, customer, team, employee, I think your journey is going to be a lot smoother. You may not even need to know agile. You just happen to do that kind of thing naturally. What's your take on it, Paweł?
So I think there's the third perspective, maybe something in between of these two, because you take your customer's point of view or not, very often based on where do you come from. And I'm not talking about the manager, but literally the business you're operating in. In a few domains, not necessarily IT, by the way, not necessarily IT, but domains that, if we use Knafi model, for instance, we call them complex domains with a lot of uncertainty in place. I think to be a manager, especially effective manager, and if never hearing of agile or lean practices, that's absolutely wrong. You won't be great, successful if you never heard about it. Not you should apply these methods. In order to do that, you need to know a few things about it. But if you operate, if your business operates in a domain that is not complex, it's simple. There's simply no need for agile or even lean solutions. I believe you can be a manager, a successful manager, even executive level manager, and spend the entire career without hearing agile word at all. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring out that model of Cynefin. It's something I've come across in the past. If people want to look for it, there's an organization called Cognitive Edge. You can go there and you can look up the Cynefin model and follow Dave Snowden. What I think you've reminded me of yet another model actually called the integral model. And I think this is a useful thinking model for managers, which simply is a 4-box square. Isn't everything a 4-box square? But the difference is this 4-box square takes the view of internal and external and individual and collective. And in summary, what it's trying to do is getting you to think about things from these 4 different kind of windows, these 4 different viewpoints. And very often, we focus maybe in the field of management on the things you can see, the tangible stuff, and the invisible stuff that's going on inside each of us and collectively as a team. We sometimes spend less time on that. Some people do it naturally. Some people, they have to work on it and they really have to train to do this well. So it's another model. As well as looking at complexity, I'd look at the integral model to look at how can you broaden your view as a manager beyond where you typically favor, because everyone has a bias. And that's okay, but we need to broaden it and bring in more views. So that's what you make me sort of think of. So where does that leave us with the original question, Paweł? Just bringing us back to, can you be a manager without knowing agile? What have we discovered today?
I think because the topic that you just brought up was more about how to be, what does it mean to be an agile leader, right? An agile manager. So if you're using the integral model, for instance, to focus on a little bit different parts of that model, perhaps we should record once a webinar or the model. It's pretty overwhelming if you look at it at the first time. I think that the question is, what's the primary focus of a manager? And I think we could have great answers. What would be the primary focus of agile managers versus what would be the primary focus of managers that never heard about agile? But coming back to our topic, our original question, indeed, I think that no matter where you operate as a manager, successful managers should have something of curiosity. It's one of my favorite values, just next to focus. If you are curious of other methods, other applications, perhaps you will hear about Agile at some point of time, and that's great for you. I recall one of the, well, not only one nowadays, but one of the first customers of Meyrick, of our company, in oil and gas industry that typically never heard about Agile. And our, as consultants, first experience with oil and gas customers was that Agile, nobody heard about it. That was awesome. That was awesome engagement for us because it was a greenfield situation. Nobody had any biases about agility, about Scrum, Kanban, all various methods, because nobody ever heard about it. I can't say that they were unsuccessful in managing their business for years. Something simply changed recently in the industry, and that's where they because of curiosity, perhaps urgency, sense of urgency, they decided, okay, we need to explore different areas, and it was a very good call for them. What do you think?
So when you're talking about curiosity, that makes me think of the manager as a learner as well as someone who manages a team. So if they're working on themselves, and you say they're curious about what's next, that's a sign that they would thrive in an agile environment. So that's the kind of person, yeah, I could definitely see them really taking this kind of way of working and working with it and building on themselves. So yeah, I suppose never stop learning would be my takeaway from the conversation today. The learning is really where you start to grow others through growing yourself. So I don't know if there's any more I can add, Paweł, but I don't know, did you want to round things up and just share with the listeners when our next webinar is?
Sure. So learning, as Tony said, one of the key aspects of any manager in general. I believe it would be great if one of the tools helping you learn would be our Agile Encounters series. For me, the key takeaway of today is that yes, you can be a manager and without any idea what Agile is. Why not? But if you are interested in your personal growth, but if you're interested also in making your business robust, in preventing any future risk, but any black swans that you might not be aware of, perhaps exploring new areas, it's simply good for you. One of the first topics I bring up during my very simple basic classes about Scrum is clear statement where Scrum does not work, where in my opinion you should not apply Scrum. So even if in your context as a manager, Agile is not the way, be curious. Find out what Agile is, and you will tell me in a moment whether it's good or not good idea for industry, for your company. I think that's my key takeaway.
So Paweł, that was a great takeaway you shared towards the end there. I'm sure people listening would like to know, when are we going to be on these Agile Encounters next, and what will be the topic?
Actually, we have a date already set. Next time it will be a real live event, so we encourage everybody interested to come in with questions. We'll have a lot of space, time also to give you the answers. The topic that I think organically grew from the one that we brought up today is adopting Agile Mindset. What does it really mean? How you can do that? And I think Tony, you and I will have a lot of examples from our battlefields how you can do that or how you shouldn't do that. It's February 16th, so in a month from now, here on Click Meeting, and it's at 6 o'clock p.m. GMT or 7 p.m. in Central European Time. I hope to see you there.
That's
Tony,
great.
thank you very much for the conversation. Take care.
Thanks, Paweł. You too.